The Sleepwalker's Secret. The First Theft. In the quiet town of Willow Creek, nestled between rolling hills and whispering forests, life moved at a serene pace. The townsfolk took comfort in their routines and familiar faces, gathering at the local diner for morning coffee and swapping stories on lazy afternoons. It was a place where everyone knew each other's names, where gossip lingered in the air like the scent of wildflowers in summer. But this idyllic existence was shattered one crisp autumn morning when Mrs. Jenkins unlocked the door to her beloved antique shop, only to find the delicate glass case that held her prized possession, a sterling silver pocket watch passed down through generations, shattered, and the watch itself gone. Her gasp echoed through the small shop, mingling with the morning sunlight filtering through lace curtains. News of the theft spread like wildfire. Mrs. Jenkins, a pillar of the community with her silver hair and warm smile, was devastated. The townsfolk gathered around her, offering support and shaking their heads in disbelief. Willow Creek had never seen such a crime. The sheriff, a stout man with a perpetual twinkle in his eye, promised to investigate, but his assurances did little to quell the unease that settled over the town like a heavy fog. Detective Emily Hartley arrived in Willow Creek the following day, summoned from the bustling city by the sheriff himself. With piercing blue eyes that missed nothing and a mind that worked like a well-oiled machine, Emily was known for solving the unsolvable. Her reputation preceded her, whispered in awe by those who had seen her in action. Emily's first stop was Mrs. Jenkins' antique shop. The shattered glass case lay testament to the theft, its jagged edges a stark contrast to the carefully arranged displays of silver trinkets and delicate china. Mrs. Jenkins greeted Emily with a trembling smile, her hands twisting a lace handkerchief. "I can't believe someone would do this," Mrs. Jenkins murmured, her voice quavering. "That pocket watch has been in my family for over a century. It's irreplaceable." Emily nodded sympathetically, her gaze sweeping the shop. She examined the crime scene meticulously, noting the angle at which the glass had been shattered and the absence of any other signs of forced entry. The thief had been methodical, selective, a characteristic not often seen in impulsive crimes. "Did anyone see anything suspicious?" Emily asked, her voice low and measured. Mrs. Jenkins shook her head, her eyes brimming with tears. "No, dear. It was early morning, and everyone was still asleep. The shop has been in our family for generations. We've never had such trouble." Emily's brow furrowed slightly. "Has anything like this happened in Willow Creek before?" Mrs. Jenkins hesitated, as if weighing her words. "Not like this, no. There was a burglary at the bakery a few years back, but that was different. This feels targeted." Emily nodded thoughtfully. "I'll need a list of everything that was taken, as well as a list of employees and anyone who might have access to the shop after hours." Mrs. Jenkins nodded, her hands fluttering nervously as she gathered papers from behind the counter. Emily took notes, her mind already spinning with possibilities. She thanked Mrs. Jenkins and promised to keep her updated, then stepped out into the crisp autumn air. Over the next few days, Emily immersed herself in the fabric of Willow Creek. She interviewed shop owners and residents, piecing together a mosaic of the town's rhythms and routines. The theft at Mrs. Jenkins' shop remained an enigma, a puzzle with no clear solution. No one had seen anything out of the ordinary, and no suspicious characters had been spotted lurking in the shadows. Then, 2 weeks later, another theft rocked Willow Creek. This time, it was the town library, a haven of quiet contemplation and dusty tomes. A rare first edition of a beloved classic had vanished from its shelf, leaving behind a sense of violation and disbelief. The librarian, a gentle soul with wispy gray hair, had discovered the theft during her morning rounds, her hands trembling as she clutched the empty space on the shelf where the book had once rested. Emily arrived swiftly, her expression grave as she examined the scene. The library was a sanctuary of knowledge, its hushed aisles a refuge for the town's avid readers and scholars. The missing book, a treasure sought after by collectors, had been meticulously removed from its protective casing, leaving no trace of its whereabouts. The same meticulousness, Emily murmured to herself, her mind connecting the dots. These thefts are not random. The sheriff nodded grimly beside her, his eyes troubled. You think it's the same person? Emily nodded. The method suggests a pattern, a deliberate choice of targets, items of personal or historical significance. But why? The sheriff wondered aloud. And how? No one's seen a thing. It's like a ghost is haunting us. Emily's gaze hardened with resolve. Not a ghost, Sheriff. A person. Someone who knows the town intimately, who moves in the shadows undetected. As the days turned into weeks, the thefts continued sporadically. Jewelry went missing from several homes, each incident leaving behind a trail of unanswered questions and uneasy whispers. The town of Willow Creek, once a haven of tranquility, now bristled with suspicion and mistrust. It was during one of Emily's late-night stakeouts that the first clue surfaced, a shadowy figure slipping away from a dimly lit alley near the town square. Emily gave chase, her heart pounding with adrenaline as she navigated the maze of narrow streets and quiet gardens. But the figure eluded her, disappearing into the night like a wisp of smoke. Frustration gnawed at Emily's resolve, but she refused to yield. She reviewed surveillance footage, analyzed witness statements, and delved into the town's history with a fervor bordering on obsession. The thief, or thieves, remained elusive, their motives murky and their methods baffling. Then, a breakthrough came in the most unexpected form. Jacob Barnes, a quiet and unassuming man who worked odd jobs around town, was brought in for questioning after being spotted near the scene of a recent theft. His eyes, normally gentle and unassuming, darted nervously as Emily studied him from across the interrogation table. Mr. Barnes, can you explain why you were in the vicinity of Mrs. Henderson's house last Tuesday night? Emily asked, her voice steady despite the racing of her pulse. Jacob shifted uncomfortably in his chair, his hands twisting in his lap. I was walking home. It's the shortest way from the diner where I work. Did you notice anything unusual that night? Emily pressed, her eyes locked on his. Jacob hesitated, his brow furrowing. No, nothing. It was quiet. Emily leaned forward slightly. You understand, Mr. Barnes, that we take these thefts very seriously. Several valuable items have gone missing from homes in Willow Creek, and we need to account for everyone's whereabouts. I swear, Detective, Jacob said earnestly, his voice tinged with desperation. I don't know anything about those thefts. I was just walking home. Emily studied him for a long moment, weighing his words against the evidence at hand. Jacob Barnes was known for his quiet demeanor and honest work ethic. He had no criminal record, no history of trouble with the law. And yet, he had been near the scene of the crime on multiple occasions. As Emily continued her investigation, a pattern began to emerge, a pattern that defied logic and challenged her every assumption. The thefts occurred exclusively at night, always under the cover of darkness. Witnesses reported seeing shadows moving in the periphery, fleeting glimpses of figures slipping away into the night. But one detail stood out amidst the chaos, the consistent claim from the alleged thief, Jacob Barnes, that he was sleepwalking during each theft. It was a defense as improbable as it was perplexing, leaving Emily grappling with a question that defied easy answers. Could Jacob's nocturnal wanderings be the key to unlocking the mystery of the Sleepwalker's secret? Or was it merely a clever ruse, a smokescreen to divert attention from a more sinister truth? As Emily delved deeper into Jacob's background, she uncovered a history of sleep disorders in his family, a legacy of restless nights and subconscious wanderings. She consulted with experts, delving into the complexities of sleepwalking and its potential to manifest in complex behaviors, triggered by deep-seated psychological stress or unresolved trauma. Yet doubts lingered in Emily's mind, doubts that echoed the skepticism simmering within the tight-knit community of Willow Creek. Could Jacob's actions be a cover for something more sinister, a calculated deception designed to evade justice and exploit the town's trust? As the investigation intensified, tensions mounted in Willow Creek. The stolen items, a silver pocket watch from Mrs. Jenkins' antique shop, a rare first edition from the town library, an assortment of jewelry from several homes, were more than mere objects. They were symbols of a community's cherished memories and shared history, now tarnished by suspicion and uncertainty. With each passing day, Emily found herself drawn deeper into the labyrinth of secrets and lies that concealed the truth. She installed surveillance cameras in Jacob's home, hoping to capture evidence that would either confirm his innocence or expose the elaborate charade that threatened to unravel the fabric of their tranquil town. But the night held its own secrets, its shadows concealing truths that eluded even the keenest of eyes. As Emily sifted through hours of footage and sifted through the town's murky past, she began to unravel the threads of a conspiracy that reached far beyond the boundaries of Willow Creek.